Hello and welcome to this edition of Community Voices Uganda on Civic Space TV. I am Phillip Mulissa. I welcome you all to this conversation, and today we discuss the prevalence of mob justice in the country, and we do this with a backdrop of recently we had a police officer lose their life on duty in the area of Ibanda in this beautiful country, Uganda. But that is not an isolated incident. We've had many other incidences, including in Kampala, including in Wakiso, including in northwestern Uganda. And many of these instances are continuing to happen, and we want to really make an assessment of what is bringing us to this level, but also try to draw recommendations and indeed things we can do to make sure we get out of that particular situation. I am Phillip Mulissa, and joining me on the conversation is one of distinguished citizens of this beautiful country, whom I will give a minute to talk to us briefly, and we excuse me, we can get into the depth of the conversation. I'll start with Priscilla. Priscilla, greetings, welcome to the conversation.
Okay, so thank you once again for this opportunity. My name is Priscilla Amuge, a teacher by profession. About today's topic, looking at how the public takes in mob justice by themselves or they carry it out, I wouldn't say it's something that I encourage. It's true, we could be having anger, we could be annoyed, we could be frustrated, maybe because we feel the justice that we want, the justice that we fight for, is actually not being granted to us. But then that doesn't give us the right, the authority, or the mandate to claim another life. Because that taking it to that instance of the Ibanda where the policeman was, beaten to death, it really doesn't bring back the justice. It actually changes what now justice should be. Because I believe that if the inmate died, maybe for reasons that they feel is not relevant or does not justify the cause, it doesn't call for another life to be claimed at the end of the day. Because after even killing this innocent, patriotic young policeman who underwent training to come and serve his nation, taking away his life has not actually claimed the life of the person they also lost. But in other words, it has increased now the anger on both sides. Because even the people of this dead policeman are not happy. They also feel like they should come and do on the revenge. So if we continue under looking at these kind of instances, then we are raising a hostile society, a society that feels blood for blood, a knife for a knife, a bullet for a bullet. So then it means that as Ugandans, there is what we need to do. There is a lot that is lagging between our people, among our people, both the policemen, the citizens. It is an indication that maybe the civic education that we could perhaps think that, everyone is knowledgeable about it, it is lacking. So now, they say very well that ignorance is not a defensive mechanism in the face of the law. So these people that have actually committed this crime should have to be apprehended. But then it doesn't look nice hearing that murder for murder. That is not the way we solve conflict in society. So if then this is the trend we are going to, that means there is a backlash or there is a gap in the law mechanism and that is what is causing people to actually take the law into their hands. Maybe they feel the law enforcement unit has actually failed to give them the justice that they do require, or that they always, they always go for. So when justice fails, just like they say, justice delayed is always justice denied. So I think it's time that even the enforcement people, the police, the courts of law, the judiciary, we wake up to what is happening, because we wouldn't want to raise a hostile society, a group of people that are vengeful. The song of brotherhood and sisterhood, then that means that it loses its meaning, because if we are not united, if we are full of hatred, if we can't respect the law and the constitution, then we are not good citizens, and we are not good enough to say that we are good citizens of this brilliant nation, Uganda. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you, Priscilla, for that. And I'll get to pick more of what you have to share about this topic. But I'm also joined by Wilson Nuwandinda, who is a lawyer. I have Ronald Oluk, who is a police officer, and indeed Lydia Alupo Police. Very welcome to the conversation. And we are discussing the prevalence of mob justice in the country. And we know many police officers have lost their lives to this vice, but also many citizens, innocent citizens, many young people, many old people have been victims to the same. I want to hear from you, Wilson, as I will come into the conversation. Take me to Ibanda. I know you've worked so closely with this case. What have you heard from the ground, and indeed, what are the facts of this particular case? Yes, Wilson.
Yes, thank you so much, Phil. Particularly this case of Ibanda, I have followed it. I've been on ground. And the issue started as it was a land problem. There's one rich man, as they say, one Vincent, who imprisoned another. I think there's this. It was a land title, sort of. So he used his money to encroach on someone's land and take about 10 acres of land. When I think the other party was ignorant about those process, what. So when they realized that Vincent had grabbed their land, they went to police, they went to court. That case has been there for a very long time, until recently, when that Vincent, the land grab, as they say, instead imprisoned the victim. He imprisoned the victim, took him to police, and according to the information, he was supposed to go to come back to court. Was it yesterday or on Wednesday? One of those days. Unfortunately, he died in custody. So when he died in custody, according to the local people say it is an allegation, but that's what I heard from them, that it is that one Vincent who bribed maybe the police officers to kill that person in prison before he makes that appearance in court. That's what they were saying. I'm not sure about that, but that's what they claim to be the issue. Then, because I even asked the wife of that person, she claims she visited the husband and she was very healthy, in a very good condition. That was not alarming at all, and she was surprised to hear that the husband had died just out of the blue. So that's why I think they got that allegation that it is that person that had maybe bribed the police officer to kill the husband. So on the burial, as they were burying that person, that is when this police officer that was killed maybe made an appearance. I don't know. He was deployed alone. He came alone. And when the local people saw a police officer, for them it was enough. They didn't even ask whether he was the one involved. they had all that anger that their person had been killed in custody and by police officers. So that's how they started that mob justice, which eventually ended up claiming the police officer's life. And then the police imprisoned that Vincent, the land grabber, is also still in custody. But then I was surprised to hear the police statement, I think from the spokesperson of the police, that the other victim in the first place was imprisoned because of a murder case. There was no murder initially before these two murders. The murders of the person who was in prison and the murder of this police officer. Before those two murders, there was no case about murder. It was entirely a land issue, land grabbing. There was no murder in that. So I don't know whether the police was misinformed from the local officers at the station, or maybe they are trying to twist something there, I'm not sure. But I was there, even at the police station itself, there is no case of murder before. So that was wrong from the police. I don't know whether they got that, where they got that information, but it was wrong.
Thank you, Wilson, for that account of what is happening in that particular part of the country. And I want to bring in Ronald immediately at that point. Ronald, you hear what Wilson shares with us, and he's on ground in Ibanda trying to follow up on this case. I want to hear your thoughts. First of all, what have you heard from regarding this particular case and the facts you hear? There's a police letter that talks about the first victim having been a suspect on remand for attempted murder, and here Wilson tells us it was a case of land grabbing. What are the facts that you've heard in your capacity as an investigative officer? I know this might not be your case, but certainly you've heard something, and certainly what do we see happening and unfolding in this case? Yes, Ronald.
Thank you, Philip, and viewers and listeners. The Ibanda case touches me a lot. You've mentioned that one of the panelists was on ground. So I want us to use his facts as they are. I don't want to add anything because I am in PSU here at Naguru. I cannot lie that I am on the ground. So if a responsible citizen like him was on the ground and those are the facts he has come up with, I want to take it as they are. I don't want to dwell on the facts. I want to dwell on the actions, on this mediocre term we use always called mob justice. There is no any term which you can refer better in that form. How do you say mob has decided to render justice to someone whom they suspect committed an offense? How do mob form up a mind and rain on a human being who is bleeding and they don't have mercy at all? How do we call that one mob justice? In our records, we don't report that as mob justice. We report it as murder by mob. Now, when you murder any human being, irrespective of whether a police officer, the law of penal code will apply for you. That is very crystal clear. And in this case, information I'm getting from the recent update of about several suspects arrested over this allegation, I believe justice will be rendered to our colleague who was murdered by people whom he had vowed to protect. This officer was called on a distress call. He was not the only one who was called. preliminary information indicates that he was called and he was dispatched. The circumstances under which he was dispatched to us as a unit that is professional standards unit will come out to light, because I, for one, task our regional officer to move hand in hand with the regional team and inquire how the officer succumbed to this heinous crime of murder. So for that, a report will come out to that effect, and given a platform another time, it will be brought to limelight by always the police spokesperson. You know that that is the mouthpiece of the police. So I don't want to indulge in the facts which should be expressly brought out by the spokesperson of the force. But I can tell you that the officer did his best. For me, I commend him as my hero. I always come with this perspective. Just imagine, this person vowed to protect life and property under that article. And other people were making a complaint. So I was hearing from a civilian group that for me, I would have cleared all of those people until my bullets get done. That is a civilian what? Talking. But this is a trained what? Officer. The man never shot anybody. You can imagine that spirit, human beings. He never injured anybody. He was shooting up in the sky, in the skies to scare people so that he's not attacked. But people still attack us human being, innocent human being. So I condemn the action of those officers individually. They should be held responsible. We have everywhere we can get evidence to sufficiently hold the people who have murdered this human being accountable. We have going to do every inquiry and bring down the people who are responsible for this into order.
Yes.
I thank you.
Thank you so much, Ronald, for that. And it's such a painful experience, and certainly we engage more about it. I want to hear from you, Lydia. Look, you see, you hear the facts stated by, of course, Wilson and Oluk, but why would the people attack a security officer that has come to provide security to them to the extent of killing him brutally, the way we saw that happen in Ibanda and any other place you've looked at? I know we've had many of related scenarios in this country. Why would the people turn against the security officers? Yes, Lydia.
Once again, good morning. So basically, this topic that we're discussing today is a one that brings in emotions, a one that we see that it actually affects one's life.
How are you?
So basically, you see that this mob justice is just a form of violence or punishment that what is inflicted by a group of people on an individual or a group. So often in the name of revenge or justice. And you see that in Uganda, mob justice has become a concerning issue with various cases reported across the country. So I think one of the factors that causes mob justice and its lack of trust in the justice system. So many Ugandans lack confidence in the formal justice system, leading to take matters in their own hands. It's because they do not have confidence that what this justice system can actually handle this matter, but they take the law into their hands. And you see that when they take the law into their hands, there is loss of lives. We see there is trauma, there is injury and trauma being caused. And also another one is poverty and unemployment. You see that there are economic hardships and unemployment that contribute to frustration and anger. which can manifest into what? A mob justice. Then also we see social and cultural factors. So in some communities, mob justice is seen as a way of maintaining social order and punish perceived wrongdoers. And yet that is not actually a way to go because they are trying to take it as a way of maintaining social order. And yet it's not so. So we see that this one of the consequences I can give is that why these people do this is because they're undermining the rule of law. We see that mob justice undermines the rule of law and authority of the state. And also, I think one of the remedies we can take upon is police reform. Why police reform? This police reform builds to build trust and improve relationships between the law enforcement and the local community. So we see community engagement. So through ADR and creating our awareness to these communities about the dangers of mob justice, and they can actually devise other means to solve matters and not taking the law into their hands. For example, they can use mediation, they can use conciliation, they can use negotiation, they can use arbitration. And also we can see that we can get emergency response in this community. When you see that there is a matter, we can actually have emergency response committees that shall be able to respond to these matters and not let it go into mob justice that will cause loss of lives. And we see that we have lost someone actually who vowed to protect, but his life was not actually protected, but he lost his life in the process of protecting other individuals who did not even have.
Yes, thank you for that. I want to hear from you, Wilson. Look, from these facts that you hear, but also what this means, what are the likely scenarios to happen in this particular matter? Because police says that they have 29 in custody, and of course they say they are still looking for more. You have a dead officer, you have a dead civilian, the burial they were attending. How is this situation likely to unfold in the coming days? And certainly, you had Fande Oluk here tell us that for them they record this as murder by mob. Is this whole group of people going to be charged of murder? What is going to happen?
Yes, thank you, Philip. First of all, just like Afande Oluk said, I also want to commend that officer because he really showed a lot of discipline. Like we all say, maybe we would have shot people in the day. It's not true that nobody was injured by the bullets. According to the information still on ground, 2 people were shot, but in the lower parts of their bodies. So no one is going to die. Maybe they will all heal. There were no serious injuries, but some bullets caught, I think, two people, but in the lower parts of their bodies. So I also commend the officer that did not kill anyone. And about what will happen, of course, what was done was not good. The locals took matters into their own hands. They killed maybe an innocent officer. But then we need to look at this case now into in both ways, not just ruling it. Yes, what was done was very bad, and it is yeah, I condemn that. But now we go back. This should be a lesson. Let this be a lesson now to go back on the drawing board and figure out what brings about these things. If the police or maybe the courts had really resolved this issue, you may ask yourself why a person who was a victim of land was instead imprisoned by the other person. So even if there was no justice, okay, why would you imprison the other person? What had they done? They are the ones who ran to the police to report this case. The matter has been in court. There was no final judgment, but simply because the other one is a rich person and maybe they can influence the police, they ended up putting the person in custody. So all of these things, they raise anger in people because they did not get justice at these police stations. Then one police officer actually told me, I want to also state this, maybe Afandoruk will clarify on that. he was telling me behind they said that there are some police constables that have not been paid salaries, some for like 6 months. I saw even something on X. There was someone who was writing to one of the activists, and then I asked one of them, said these constables, despite the fact that they are paid very little money, they also do not receive it on time. You can imagine someone is expecting around 400 or 500, but they take 6 months without receiving that salary. So these are all issues that lead to these things. We should not just leave them unmentioned. So someone who has not received their little salary for 6 months, then now sees this rich man comes with 1 million, imprison this person, they will not even think twice, whether it's the victim, whether it's the that. Okay?
I even want to, Wisdom, I wish you give me opportunity and I respond immediately because I will not be given ample time.
It is okay.
Yes, Wilson, let me tell you that there is no one who is missing. There is no issue of salary here in this instance. This officer was doing a noble duty. There is no issue of salary. Let us put salary and this duty out of the picture. You get the point?
Afande, what I'm trying to, I'm not saying this was the cause. Please got me right. Eh?
Okay, thank you.
I'm going back to where these things began. Yes, before the murders happened. Eh? I'm saying, why would an innocent person? I'm not saying innocent. Okay, someone has run to court, reported the case of land grabbing, and then you would wonder why he ended up in custody instead with no serious claim. I'm saying this on matters because I discussed with these police officers. I asked, is it true? So I'm saying, of course, he was not imprisoned just because he had done something. No. You see, there was something behind. This is a rich man comes with influence of his money. You imprison this person. These things happen. We all know. So I brought in this issue of salary just because to see someone not receiving salary for 6 months, they have a family to feed, and I go there with my 500,000 and I say, no, you go and imprison Philip for 1 week. They will probably do that because they're saying, so me, I'm going back to see the solution, what the solution can be in all this. First of all, these people that were in prison, they are now, I think the last time I checked, they were 29 or what? I agree they should be arraigned in courts of law, and that is a murder case. They should be imprisoned according to what the law says, because what they did was very bad. But then after that, now we are going, because we shall not still mourn these people forever. Yes, they have died. It was an incident. What are we trying to do to see that these cases, these similar scenarios, do not rise up again? First of all, it is the issue. These issues, land issues, this is not the first person to die because of land matters, and it is always the police. I am sorry, I find you will clarify these things. It is always the police. Police. Bribes. Someone who has money now can go on the whole village and imprison people. You know, people are in prison. These cases are here. After this case, I also got like 3 more cases of these similar scenarios. Simply because people did not die and they are not in the news, it doesn't mean these things are not happening. They are all blaming the police, the local police. These rich men go there with their money. They say, go and imprison this person. Just because they are vulnerable and they have no voice, they end up in custody. They are there. They have never seen a judge. They have never, just because there is a rich man who grabbed their land. You see? So when also citizens, the local people, do injustice to themselves and go unlawfully doing the mob justice, so murder or beating by mob, like the diction you use, it is because they have nowhere to run to. Please, can you make these spaces even and just for these people so that they do not take issues in their own hands? You see, this is desperacy. They are desperate because the avenues that were put there to sort of their cases, they are instead now turning against them simply because someone is poor. And these cases are there. And if you are to be truthful, you know that these things are there. So I think we should go back on the drawing board and we see how to clarify these things so that, because they are not stopping here. if we do not solve the root cause of this issue, many people are going to die. We are going to see mob justices. You can imagine an officer killed by people just because of desperation, because of what? So what are we doing to rectify this issue? Me, I see that is the whole point. That is what is between the lines now, what we should focus on. It was an embarrassment, these people to kill an officer, and now it is an issue. I heard also where this officer that died, where he comes from, that the locals are looking now for people who come from Ibanda that maybe work or reside there to also kill them. Yes, this was also another crime. You see what these things can lead to. It does not end there. There is an innocent maybe Ugandan who will be beaten or simply because he comes from this place where their own officer was killed. So if we don't resolve these issues right away from, we are going to keep on seeing these issues coming up, and we end up into intertribal wars, because now we see they are looking for some people in Ibanda who reside there to also get justice, in their own hands, like you say. So, me,
Yes,
Philip,
thank you, Wilson, for that. And I know, Afando Luke, you would want to make some responses to that, but conclusively, it is true that we usually hear cases of misconduct from police officers that would certainly create anger in some people's cases of bribery, cases of reported cases, and people bribe their way out of police custody without cases even recorded. I know, but please respond briefly to some of those allegations that we keep hearing, and certainly what Wilson points out, including the fact that sometimes the salaries of officers, not for the officer in Uganda, but generally sometimes come late, and this could actually affect their decision making as officers of the law. Yes, Apande Oluk.
Thank you, Philip. I appreciate giving me opportunity to respond. I would love to inform the panelists and the audience that when this matter came into limelight, we were the first persons who contacted the region to conduct an investigation in the conduct of the officers who sent this officer, including looking into those files, the alleged case files, where maybe someone was imprisoned by a rich man. For this case, how my friend is expressing himself, how a rich man goes to police, bribes everyone, including the arresting officer, the IO, the district CID, the DPC, the station, because you must be in position to bribe everyone to move to the next level. Police is only an actor in the justice, law, and order sector. A point of entrance of cases related. Cases which are civil, my fellow brothers and sisters who are down there who are suffering because of land matters, they are the very ones who run to police and report case of civil criminal trespass, case of malicious damage. When they fail to handle it at that local court level, because there's a local council court. I don't know why people don't want to use these courts. When they have a land run, they run to police, they jump the local council. Yet these actors are very relevant. They're the ones who know where the land is. So they're the ones who are best suited to resolve a dispute. So if you are in conflict with your neighbor over a land matter, blindly you come to police and report a case of criminal trespass, thinking that it's going to be the keys to unlocking who owns this land. whereas not. So I urge people out there to go and seek civil redresses in cases of land matters. The moment issues of land matters, go to civil court. Don't run to police. It won't give you a remedy because police has no jurisdiction to tell you who is the owner of this land. That's how you can cure land. But a brother has cut me over a boundary that I'm in conflict with, and the extent of the injury on the head is a grievous harm with a deep wound using a panga. My friend Mulissa, Philip, we are going to charge you with attempted murder. If I'm not to remember very well, in this case, something of that nature was of that I had. I don't want to confirm. But if you cut your brother and one of your uncles or else he refers the matter to police, the matter is going to be investigated, you are going to be charged. Just in mind whether your brother is the one whom you cut. So if you are the one who cut your brother over a land matter, you will have to find a way of how to resolve it. In this case, a rich man coming to bribe everyone. I told you police is one of the actors. Just the entry point of the jailers or system, where you have a DPP or resident state attorneys. These are trained lawyers hired by government to peruse through all cases which come from police. Usually police used to be the one who sanctioned these files, but those powers were taken away from police and given to DPP. They're the ones who read those cases. They're the ones who read the evidences we have gathered. And they're the ones who say, bring this person to court. Actually, it reaches a time that they're the ones who command us on what to do. Because today, as of today, we do what we call investigative-led, we do what we call prosecution-led investigation, where they're the ones who are guiding police, do A, B, C, and D, go to the scene, do A, B, C, and D. So when they instruct us to do that and we completed doing it, then they sanction a case against you. How do you blame a policeman for doing his work perfectly?
Yes, thank you, Ronald. I seem not to hear you so well now. But thank you so much.
The disadvantage of mob justice. Thank you. If you decided,
yes, thank you. Thank you, Ronald, and that's important. I see Wilson, you want to make a response, but please do that in 30 seconds. I want to engage Priscilla here. Yes, Wilson.
Thank you, Philip. I wanted to respond to this. You see, like the Afande is saying that it means you have to bribe everyone at the police station. I think, of course, there is hierarchy. When you give money to the, let's say the DPC, I'm not saying this was the case, but I'm giving an example. And then he orders the constable to go and arrest someone. I don't think a constable will now ask his boss why I'm going to do this, why I'm going to do this. Then another thing, like he's saying that they should use the local avenues, the local courts, what. These people, you see, police became, it is a run to for everyone. When these people, when someone is cut, like you were saying, their first thought is about the police. Then if the police was professional enough, why don't they guide these people back? Go, use this channel, go to this one, go to this one, go to this one. So I partly blame the police also on that. Then another thing, even before going to the courts of law, these people, like you're saying, the rich men, what they use, what I discovered now when I was there is that they use the police to imprison these people, the victims, whether they want to stay their land. They use the police to keep them in custody so that they do not access other measures to get justice. So when someone is inside police custody, these are people that are illiterate, they are ignorant about the law, they don't even have money to hire a lawyer. So when you keep them in custody, that is enough. You have shielded you have shielded. So they are using police to cover up and shield these people from getting justice. They bribe these police officers, they imprison the victims so that they do not get any other access, and it is done. So that is the point I wanted to clarify.
Thank you so much, Wilson, for that. Priscilla, these issues seem to be happening, and you hear the different versions of what can happen. When you keep hearing this and the reactions and how people get to react to what happens, do you see people changing from this sort of behavior? And I know you were a teacher. When you prepare when you are teaching your pupils, your students, and so on, do you think there are other underlying causes of the anger, of the reactions from people, or certainly it is what is on ground and people are propped up to be monsters? So what could be underlying that causes these reactions in our people? Yes, Priscilla.
Okay, thank you so much, Melissa. Now, it's just like we say that charity begins from home. You see, no parent would wake up one day to raise a thief, to raise a murderer. No parent would do that. But then, where do we get these bad vices? The people we interact with, the people we do associate with, influence how we think, how we do things, and how we perceive other things at the end of the day. Now, back to the topic. Before, initially, some years back, mob justice wasn't at a rise as it is now. So I think there are really greater factors that have contributed to this thing. Some that the law enforcers would have actually worked on it to avoid this. Then some come within the environment that we have been raised from. Now, when I talk about an environment, when a child grows up in a hostile environment where a child knows that violence is solved with violence, then that is the kind of a citizen that that particular community is actually going to raise. When a child also grows in an environment where the child knows that where there is violence, peace can prevail if we actually use peaceful mechanisms to solve the challenges or the problems that we are facing at the moment, then we shall also raise that particular individual. Now, the greatest thing, and if we look at 90% of the cases about land grabbing or struggling about land, two parties are involved. It will either be the rich and the poor. In most cases, you'll actually find that it's the rich either encroaching or actually trying to take away this person's land. Now, because someone is vulnerable, you get it. A friend Oluk was trying to say that we have mechanisms that actually are within us. Let's say maybe our local defense forces that we have, the LC1s and the LC2. They are where extremes reaches, where these individuals cannot handle our cases. Maybe because of the intimidation that is actually coming from one party. And most of the local village people we choose, they are not empowered. That is one thing that we need to understand in this topic. That fine, they tell them now you're the one responsible for the affairs of this village or this particular parish, so and so. It is in documentary, in words. But when it comes to how these people should handle some cases, you find that some of them actually don't even have the knowledge on how to handle these particular cases that come onto their side. Then secondly, some of them just mere words of intimidation is also enough. Another factor in the interplay why our own local people cannot actually help us solve these land cases at the village grassroots is secondly because poverty has made people so vulnerable. So because corruption has a play at hand, then it makes hard for even these people to perform their duties. Now, if at the grassroots levels, they have failed to help me out as a vulnerable person, what is my next step? So my next step would now be to go to police. Because you see, People believe that because the police is empowered, they have that authority, they have the power and the mandate to bring order. So someone who is vulnerable, we know how much people treasure their land. Actually, someone can be poor, but knows that starting from point A to point B, that is my asset as land, and that becomes their source of survival. So by the time you come out to take away their own source of survival, trust me, someone will not handle you well. So when people run to the police hoping for justice, that since my village grassroots leadership has failed me, maybe the police is actually going to do something. Now, what happens if also the police fails to help this individual, get the justice that they want for? That is where the anger comes from. That is where citizens become hostile. That is when they look at the law enforcers as enemies. That is why they look at the law enforcers as people who are actually working hand in hand with the person they are be the person trying to take away their only source of life or living or their own property. So when justice then at that moment is not given to them, in a normal person thinking, yes, someone will be angered. Someone will be frustrated. Now, the other hostile part of it, I get back to, wow, how these particular individuals were raised. So if by nature someone was raised to be hostile, cruel, then trust me, the actions they would take next would also be cruel.
Yes,
A
thank
few
you.
majority would then maybe by conscience say, but no, what we are trying to do is actually not right. Let us try to maybe follow the right procedure. But in most cases, such voices are less empowered. Actually, they're overpowered by the voices that feel violence is the best way to go. Why? Because they felt the people that should have helped them get the justice, or maybe help them forward these cases to a better level that could handle, have also failed them. So what happens if someone in need has been failed? They would then maybe think of an alternative on how to handle this particular cases. But then that doesn't mean that I justify them committing or killing,
Thank
claiming
you.
other lives. No.
Thank you, Priscilla. Thank you so much for that submission. Lydia, I'm back to you, and I want to hear solutions now. How can we have these matters and indeed this kind of feeling and reactions in our societies reversed, and certainly know that we can live in a society that is peaceful, a society.
So one of the remedies we can have is community engagement. So one of the things we can do is community engagement, and we need to create community awareness and sensitization of the dangers of mob justice, and also about we can give them mechanisms in which they can live to solve disputes. One, we can encourage them to go for mediation, arbitration, negotiation, and reconciliation. And also, I think one of the things we should visibly pay attention to is having a working relationship between the police and the local officers we have in these communities. One is that maybe if the police and the local officers have a working relationship, it will help to solve some of these challenges. The local officers will be able to update the police officers is what is happening in the various communities. This is happening, and that can be by having reports either weekly or monthly. When those local officers report to the police station what is happening in their community, so that when these disputes are even starting to arise in their early stages, the police is aware that when it reaches even that later stage, the police would have already found solutions that could help you solve these challenges. And also having a police reform. So these police reform practices will help to build trust and improve relationships between the law enforcement and the local community. So when they improve on that relationship, we shall we shall be able to solve this dispute and also have emergency responses. So in these communities, and one of those emergency responses can be the local leaders in those communities that will be able to keep the police and uplift the police when such disputes arise in communities and be able to handle this matter before it goes into mob justice, and we shall be able to save lives and make sure that these individuals are protected early enough before the community takes the law into their hands. So that's what I think some of the mechanisms we can use.
Thank you, Lydia, for that recommendation. And it's really important that we raise some of those recommendations so that we try to streamline our societies. Afando, look, as you try to talk about recommendations on how we can get out of these situations and have a progressive society, there have been comments about the fact that you had one police officer on ground at a place where we knew things could go either way. People were not happy, certain about what had happened, whichever way it came about. Do you think there was an issue with the deployment of just one officer to provide security to this place? And certain as you give us recommendations and way forward on how we can resolve these matters. Yes, Ronald.
Thank you, Philip. True. True, we have a remedy, like our colleagues have said, we have a remedy to all this. The key to it is sensitization. We call upon our people who are termed, who are now being quoted to be layman, who does not know the knowledge, to always tune into their FMs when police invite them during CLO meetings. We do sensitization on medias. So I call upon our people to listen to what the officers are guiding them on media, even physically attend those sensitization meetings, which is organized by the DPC, who is the chief CLO officer of the district. We call upon you that if you don't know of anything, you go to police and inquire, call and knock on any officer's door, DPC or CID. Just say, I want to see the DPC, I want to see the OCID, so that you will access these persons who are knowledgeable about the law. We call upon people that when they're in a position of distress and they want help to reach them to react to them social. The citizens are entitled to that. We owe them a service. We have a duty to perform, and we shall always do that. In the justice system, I call it so that people are heard expressly, and the cases of land matters are determined promptly. There's not over things about this lack of patience that our people exhibit. I call upon also the resident attorneys out there to peruse files and which are ready to land dispute and find amicable solution towards it. And rather, instead of seeing them, they refer them to be mediated and the amicable solution, and otherwise or refer them to what? To civil courts, so that they are not chasing a criminal matter, yet the remedy is in the civil court. I call upon people to resolve their issues which are land related in the community there, especially land which are cultural, without boundaries, without land titles, where you know that this my land ends from point A to point B. To resolve their matters using those civil courts, by starting from LC1. If it defeats you, LC3. If it defeats it, you are referred to magistrates who will handle you, and so forth. So these are the remedies, I think, which is available to us. For the officers who could have erred when they deployed someone alone duty, it's not our standards that an officer is deployed alone. I know police is investigating the concept of a single deployment that led to the officer being killed by mob. We shall respond to that when the spokesperson of the police is unable to give you available facts towards that. I thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ronald, for that. And Wilson, I want to hear, how do we get out of here? Because we need to have a society that is peaceful, society that trusts each other, society that can work together to get out of problems, recommendations to get out of these situations. Yes, Wilson.
Yes, Philip. I've heard from their fund, and of course, yes, we like I said earlier, we need to move on from the death of these two people, something that has already happened, but then to look for all possible measures and ways to see that this kind of situation does not repeat itself. For me, what the police should have done, first of all, before even releasing, after this, they should have established the truth-finding committee to go on the ground and engage these two parties, not just getting a report from the same station that is being blamed by the locals. I see this is, they are doing, for lack of better word, nothing, actually, justice, because they should go on ground, hear what the locals are saying, engage with the police station that was in charge, and see and find out the truth. Secondly, of course, there need to be also a peace and reconciliation meeting between these two. First of all, we should not forget these two deaths should not cover up the fact that there was a family that was left behind of the wife and children that still need justice of their small piece of land. Because it will be a tragedy for a person now, they have lost a father, it is not by their own making, and now they will lose land. So this issue needs to be followed up to the brim. Then, of course, as they are doing this, there should be a transparent investigation, engage both parties, and come out the final conclusion. Then, now what the police needs to do, they need to build trust with the local people. Because now the local people no longer trust the police at all, because this was now a sign. Killing a person, taking the law into their own hands. It's because they do not trust the police. There is that wide gap now between the police and the local people. And if it is not bridged, then this is just the beginning of this. We are yet to see more, and more scenarios. Then also the handling of land disputes actually should be reviewed. Like I told you when I was there are over 3 cases that people were saying they have the heads of the families in police. They have never been aligned in courts of law. They are just being kept there so that the rich men take their land. They have never gotten any justice, just simply because maybe it did not escalate to this similar case that we are discussing. But there are still very many cases of this similar state that need to be. So the handling of land disputes. These are poor people. They have their small piece of land. They have produced children. So if you are taking away their only treasure, then, my friend, they have now to rise in unison and defend for their rights. Because why these local people are coming up in unison now to kill an officer, this tragedy that befell the community, is because they know now it is going to be a sequence. It is going to affect them. Now it means the rich man will start grabbing land. So that's why they rise in unison now, so to send a message. I'm not saying this was the right way to go, but then still we have to see behind what really caused this. What can be done to prevent any other future scenarios of this? So they should provide a truth-finding committee, because there is a lot of truth. I don't know whether the police still has this truth, but it is sitting on it not to be released to the public. But as if the reporter you saw is all the police has, then they are very far away from the reality, and they are nowhere close to completing this case. There should be a truth-finding committee where the police headquarters send people on the ground to engage these two parties and come out to the final conclusion and make sure that all the parties get justice.
Thank you, Wilson Nuwandinda. Thank you for those who, well, you hear from my panel, the thoughts, the views, the opinions they have to share about this particular vice in our society, and certainly a lot to learn, a lot to understand, and a lot to pick from them. And certainly, whoever has something to do in this particular regard should speak some of his thoughts and views and make sure our society is corrected and put on the right trajectory. Wilson Nuwandinda, thank you so much for your time and for your thoughts you share in this conversation. Priscilla Amuge, thank you so much for your time and for sharing your thoughts with us today. And indeed, Lydia Alupo, thank you so much for your time and indeed for sharing those amazing thoughts with us today. And lastly, Ronald Oluk, thank you so much for your time and indeed for sharing your thoughts and opinions and facts with us today. And indeed to you, our viewers, thank you so much for keeping it Community Voices Uganda on Civic Space TV. Special thanks to the technical team and the Center of Constitutional Governance and all our other partners for making sure this is possible and it happens. And we continue to say we promise to keep adding a voice and a brick to see that the governance of our society, of our country, and indeed the world is better day after day. Thank you so much, and I shall see you next time.